Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejo Maim Naishthekim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmita Shri Mukhim Vatsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapini Shyamangim Madhusikta Suktim Amrita Anandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Yet again, another session of Hanuman Chalisa. So far we have discussed until the 34th verse of the Hanuman Chalisa. Today we look into 3 more, 35, 36 and the 37th verse out of the 40. So we'll have 3 more left for us to discuss thereafter. So as always, let's go through the pronunciation of each of the verse. Let me first quickly go through the 3 verses and then let's look into the pronunciation. The 35th verse, Aur devata chittana dharai hanumat sei sarva sukha karai. The 36th verse, Sankat kate mite sab pira Jo sumire Hanumat balbira. And then the 37th verse, Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki Nai. So these are the 3 verses we'll discuss today. Let's begin with the 35th verse. Looking into the pronunciation, I'll pronounce it in 4 parts. Please respond after me once. So let's begin. Aur devata, chitta na dharai, Hanumat sei, sarva sukha karai. Now once all together, please respond after me once. Aur devata chittana dharai Hanumat sei sarva sukha karai. Aur devata chittana dharai Hanumat sei sarva sukha karai. In 4 parts, the 36th verse now. Sankat kate, mite sab pira, Jo sumire, Hanumat balbira. Once all together, the 36th verse. Sankat kate mite sab pira Jo sumire Hanumat balbira. Sankat kate mite sab pira Jo sumire Hanumat balbira. The 37th verse now in 4 parts. Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki Nai. All together once. Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai, Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki Nai. Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai, Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki Nai. So let's now look into the meaning. The 35th verse, it goes as Aur Devata Chittana Dharai, or other, or the others, or the more or others, or Devata, the more deities or other deities, other forms of the divine. Chitta, the mind, na, not, dharai, to fixate, to invest. So the mind needn't be invested on any other form, but Hanuman, Hanumat, referring to Lord Hanuman, Hanumat say, with Hanuman, sarva, all, sukha, all forms of pleasure, all forms of happiness, all forms of well-being. Karai, it happens to do. So we needn't focus on any other form, but Hanuman's form itself is enough, with which we can make well-being, we can make happiness happen. It will make happiness happen. So focus just on the form of Lord Hanuman. The 36th verse says, Sankat kate, Sankat, problems, hurdles, obstacles. Kate, Sankat kate, the problems get obliterated, the problems get completely erased. Mite, they get erased. Sab, all, pira, every form of suffering. So all the problems get obliterated, all forms of sufferings get erased. They all disappear. When Jo, one who, sumire, one who is in remembrance of, one who is devoted to. Hanumat is devoted to Lord Hanuman. Bal, Veera. Bal, strength. Veera, courageous. So one who is devoted to the courageous and the strong Hanuman, all forms of sankat, all forms of problems get obliterated, all forms of problems get destroyed, and all forms of sufferings just disappear. Mite sab pira. And the 37th verse, Jai Jai Jai. Jai basically means victory. Jai Jai Jai, victory, victory, victory. To who? Hanuman Gosai. Victory to who? Hanuman. Gosai, a revered person, one who has reached an elevated or the ultimate state. Hanuman Gosai, victory, victory, victory to you. Kripa Karahu, Kripa, grace. Kripa Karahu, to create, to create Kripa of who? Gurudev, to create the Kripa of the Guru, the spiritual preceptor. Kripa Karahu, Gurudev ki nai. Ki nai, likewise. So, victory, victory to Lord Hanuman, who facilitates Guru's grace. So these are the 3 verses we are going to discuss today. So let's discuss in detail, elaborate on them. So let's begin with the 35th verse. The 35th verse basically says, focus the mind just on Lord Hanuman, and that will bring all forms of happiness, right? Aur devata chittana dharai, Hanumat sei sarva sukha karai. Let's begin with the story of Lord Hanuman coming to the rescue. Like always, beautiful stories, inspiring stories of Lord Hanuman. So there was this demon called Viprachit. So Viprachit Asura, he, with the advice of his guru, the guru of the Asuras, the guru of the demons, Shukracharya. So Shukracharya advises him, so as to become strong and powerful, he needs to perform a tamasic yajna. Yajna, fire ceremony, sacrificial ceremony wherein you make offerings into the fire. But this is tamasic in nature. Tamasic, something that pulls you down towards inertia, something that has a negative connotation. So it's a typical fire ceremony, but here the attitude is negative, and the offerings are also very different. The flesh is offered, and offerings that create a negative feeling are offered into the fire with specific chants, and these are to be performed by trained sages. So what does Viprachit do? He abducts a lot of sages, brings them in captive, in captivity. He forces them to perform this yajna. And when they perform this yajna, the yajna is offered towards the devas, the demigods. And as is the rule of nature, anything that you offer, the divine just accepts. The devas, they just accept it. So when they accept the negative offering, what happens? It brings down their power. It brings down their brilliance, including Surya Deva. He starts losing his brilliance. Even the solar cycle is now affected, and because of this, there is imbalance in nature. There's climate change. Every form of problem in nature, in environment that we could think of. So this was creating quite a negative effect in the whole environment. So Hanuman is noticing that something is not right about the surrounding, about environment, about nature. And he also sees his guru, Surya Deva, the sun god, is also not as brilliant as usual. So he pays a visit to Surya Deva, and he sees that he is not shining as usual. His brilliance is definitely depleted. So he asks him, what happened? And he says, I cannot help, but whatever is offered to me, I have to accept it. So Viprachit is forcing these sages, under captivity, to perform this yajna, and we are accepting all the offerings, and because of that, our strength, our power, our force is going down. So Hanuman says, if that happens, it will affect the whole creation. So I need to do something about it. As usual, Hanuman, the superhero, he springs into action. He takes it upon him, saying, I should do something about this. So he goes to where the yajna is taking place, and he sees that the sages and seers are performing the homa in fear, because they are all at gun point or arrow point or sword point, performing the yajna. And we have discussed before how Ravana was performing a yajna, and Hanuman was sent to stop that yajna during the war. But Hanuman is very wise. He wouldn't just go and stop a yajna, because we need to have respect. Even if it is a tamasic yajna, we should respect the way it is prescribed. So he didn't go and just disrupt the yajna. So what does he do? He thinks, let me find a way out. If they are creating negative thoughts or negative vibrations out of this yajna, what is the best way to counter it? Create positive feelings. What is the best way to create positive feelings? He sits in a corner, and then he goes into a deep state of meditation and wholeheartedly starts calling out to Lord Rama. And he starts chanting Rama, 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 Rama. And as he gets into it more and more, the intensity goes up. And as more and more intense that it gets, it starts creating such intense amount of positive energy that it starts disrupting the yajna. And it kind of nullifies the yajna altogether at one point of time. So just with mere Lord Rama's name, with the intensity in his devotion, he kind of nullifies the effect of the yajna. So the asuras are definitely not going to take it sitting down. So now the asuras, they come and try to attack him. Initially, he handled it with devotion and humility. Now is the time to show his might. Now he fights the asuras, and in a jiffy, with no effort, he defeats all the asuras. And he's about to attack Viprachit. But Shukracharya intervenes, and he somehow rescues Viprachit, it seems. But because the yajna was stopped, the effects were nullified, the devas were rescued. So Lord Hanuman rescued all the demigods, is how this folklore goes. And then he takes everyone to the Lord of medicines, the Lord of cure, the Lord of Ayurveda. Greatly worships the form of Lord Vishnu as Dhanvantari. So he takes all of them to Dhanvantari to heal them. So Dhanvantari heals all of them, and he says, you need to perform a compensating yajna with these specific offerings, so that the positive effect is created and the effect of the other yajna is nullified. So now they are ready to make these offerings. There are these specific offerings to be made. They keep all of them ready. So now what does Shukracharya and Viprachit do? They think of disrupting this yajna. So they hatch a plan wherein they will come and replace all the items that are prepared specifically for that yajna. They'll replace it with negative items in disguise. They look like the actual items, but they are not what they actually are. They will create negative effect. Now Hanuman sees this happening, and he probably was prepared for this. He says, now you are acting in deceit. I will try to deceive you. So, remove the thorn with another thorn. So he goes, he replaces their stock of negative items with positive items. So now they think they have in their possession negative items, and they come and replace the puja items, the homa items, the yajna items, thinking they are replacing it with negative items. But as a matter of fact, Hanuman has already fooled them. He has already replaced their items with positive items. Now they come and replace the items thinking they are, fooling the devas, but those were the actual items that were to be offered. So the yajna is successful. The devas regain their power, their brilliance, their force. So Hanuman comes to the rescue of the devas, first with humility and devotion, then using his might, and then using his smartness and intelligence, his brain power or mind power. So as in the story, all the devatas were rendered helpless. Hanuman came and rescued them and helped them regain their power. So, or devata chittana dharai, there is no need to focus your mind on any other form. Focusing on Hanuman is good enough, is the interpretation we could get through this story. But we definitely need to look into it from the spiritual point of view, as we always do. Looking at this story, it actually reflects today's situation. Yajna, life is verily yajna. Our life, the way we live, is a yajna. And what do we offer into life? The yajna is our negativities. We kindle and we nurture the negativities in us in form of negative thoughts, in form of negative words that we may speak, in form of negative actions that we may perform. And we make these offerings into this yajna. And what is it doing? It is creating imbalance in our mind. It's creating imbalance in the environment that we live in the surrounding. Like how Amma mentions during the peace meditation, the white flower meditation, right? Amma says, in today's world, the mind and the environment, the nature, is in a state of agitation, right? So we are performing the tamasic yajna through leading our life unrighteously. And what is the best way to compensate on that? Hanuman set the right example. He said, he reminds us to compensate on the negative effect through devotion, through japa, through positive thoughts and words, and overcome the negativities. So the story should remind us of that. Let us make our life, which is already a yajna, let it not be a tamasic yajna, rather let it be a sattvic yajna. Let it create positive effect in us, let it create positive effect in others. So when the devatas were helpless, Hanuman came to their rescue. Thus, Hanuman, let us worship Hanuman, is one way of interpreting it. But again, looking at it spiritually, like I mentioned, continuing to look at the spiritual interpretation, does that mean all the other devatas are inferior? All the other devatas are not as great? The same question arises with many religions, many faiths, many traditions that we have. Especially certain traditions may say, our God is the greatest and the only God. Everything else, will take you on the wrong path or some such. There are many traditions like that. So how do we understand that? This verse is also seeming to convey a similar message. We don't need to focus on other deities, just Hanuman alone. Of course, this statement is valid, but it is valid when we take this statement with the right understanding, with wisdom, with spiritual understanding. A simple question. If I ask you the question, who is the greatest mom in the world? Invariably, I'm sure you are all going to say your respective mom is the greatest in the world, right? I'm quite sure. Each one of you is going to say, my mom is the greatest. But what about my mom then? What about others' mom? Aren't they greatest? For each one of us, our mom is the greatest. Why? Because we have had experience, we have had a bond, we have had a connection with the mom, we have learned from the mom, and we have grown with the help of the mom. That's why we find that mom the greatest. But that in no way says any other mom is useless. At the same time, we dedicate ourselves to our respective mom for all that the mom has done for us, for all that the mom guides us with. Similarly, when you say, I dedicate to a particular form, it doesn't mean other forms are inferior. Talking about mom, I was just, not that this has any specific significance here. Talking about mom, and I was thinking of greatness of mom, I was just reminded of this small joke that I read somewhere. There are 3 kids who are trying to praise or speak the greatness of their mom. The first kid says, my mom is so great, she's all the time in the kitchen trying to cook food for whatever I want, whatever I like. She always cooks that particular food and probably cooks it the best way it could be. So she's so great that she's always in the kitchen doing that. The second boy says, my mom is even greater because she doesn't stand or be in the kitchen all the time. She works. She goes to work and still comes back and cooks the best food possible for me. Yummy food. So she's even greater. And the third boy says, your moms are not as great as my mom. My mom is the greatest. She's so great that she doesn't work and she doesn't go to the kitchen either. She has trained my dad to be obedient to her. And whatever food I want, my dad cooks for me. So she's even greater than all your moms. But this is not the argument we are getting into, whether my God is great, your God is not great, etc. We do see this in various scriptures too. We have Shiva Purana. In Shiva Purana, it portrays Lord Shiva as the ultimate, and every other form as being of service to Lord Shiva or being of support to Lord Shiva. Vishnu Purana on the other side would say Vishnu is the ultimate. Every other form, Shiva, Brahma, and Indra, and all other deities, all other forms are in service to him. Or Srimad Bhagavatam says Lord Krishna is the ultimate. These scriptures are not there to prove the supremacy of the deity that we are focusing on. Sanatana Dharma is so vast and so accommodative that based on the devotees' abilities, based on their character, based on their mental composure, Sanatana Dharma gives them an option to choose a particular deity that they could relate to the most. And for that particular deity, there's a text, and that text would basically say that deity is the ultimate. But it doesn't mean that other forms are in any way inferior. It doesn't put down other forms. It basically says they support this particular deity. It's like going to college. I may choose to go to law school. And when I go to law school, I am made to believe law is the way. That's the best field to go into, best things to study and best profession to take up, law school. But that doesn't mean engineering is in any way inferior. Someone else who's going to engineering school, someone else who's going to medical school, they are told medicine is the best. The other person is told engineering is the best. Unless and until they have a conviction that engineering is the best, they will not have commitment towards that field. Think of this. I joined the college. The first year, I start learning all the courses that are pertaining to law school. And second year, I decide, oh, law school is not that great. Let me start engineering. Second year, I start taking few credits that are pertaining to engineering degree. And second year, I decide, oh, engineering degree is not that great. Let me switch to medical school. And third year, I start learning biology, chemistry, and other things. And end of the third year, I am neither a lawyer, nor a doctor, nor a sorry, there was a notification, I got distracted. So neither a doctor nor an engineer either. We are not getting anywhere. So once we take up one field, one path, it's best to stick to that and consider that as the best and move forward. So that is the whole idea here. It's not about putting others down, rather to affirm that the path you have taken is the best, focus on that form, focus on that deity, and move forward. Grow is what the gist of the verse is. It's not just about deities. It's about anything that we venture into. Like I said, we go to school, you better be dedicated to that. Even the path we take in life. I have taken the path of being a monk. I should consider being a monk is the best. Any other thing is not as great as this. Being the monk is the best. Because if I doubt that being a monk is the best form of life, I will falter at some point of time. At the same time, if one of you has taken up the path of a householder, you should consider householder life as the best. Else, you won't be able to do justice to householder life. So that's how we should be. When we take a particular path, we should consider that path, the deity, the object of worship, everything as the ultimate. That will keep us going. That will give us that enthusiasm, that drive to keep going. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, there's a verse, very popular verse that most of us chant. When we chant any chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we typically end with this. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya, relinquishing all the dharmas, all the principles, all the priorities that we have set in life. Mamekam sharanam vraja, take refuge in me and me alone. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo, me, I will, I will take you of all, I will render you of all the negative effects of your actions. Mokshayishyami, I will take you to liberation. I will help you be liberated. Ma shucha. There's no room for fear. Don't fear, is what Lord Krishna is telling. Of course, there are many who would then interpret telling Lord Krishna says, take refuge only in me. So Lord Krishna is the ultimate. Every other form or every other deity that you're worshipping to is waste of time. Probably that's a limited way of understanding it. When Lord Krishna says me, he is not identified just with that body or that form alone. When Lord Krishna says me, he is identified in that form, he is identified with the supreme truth. And he says, take refuge in the supreme truth. And there is nothing wrong in telling Krishna is the greatest. For a Krishna devotee, Krishna should be the greatest. But with the understanding that any other form, any other deity is in no way inferior. So it is okay to say my deity is superior. But the problem comes when you say your deity is inferior. After all these forms are what? Are a manifestation of the same supreme being. So it would be foolishness to just focus on one form and say this alone is great. It is actually lack of understanding. And the same question arises with gurus too. There are people who would say, oh, I am with this guru, is the other guru better? Should I look for the other guru? There is this term called guru shopping. It is something not something not that would help us. We need to recognize a guru and be dedicated to that guru. I remember when I was in college, I remember two of my good friends. They were devoted to two different gurus, and they got into this argument wherein one was talking about the greatness of his guru, and the other person was talking about the greatness of the other guru. And it went on and on and on and on and on to an extent that rather than now talking about the greatness of their guru, they started talking about the shortcomings of the other guru. So the argument took a twist. Now, rather than telling my guru is such and such and such and such, he started telling your guru is not such and such and such and such. And the other person would retaliate, telling your guru also has this problem. And then it went on. It was not a very fruitful discussion. One thing is sure, both of them have no understanding of the true teachings of their guru. They are not true followers of their respective guru. If so, they wouldn't have gotten into that discussion or that argument. So once we have recognized a true guru, it is best for us to consider that guru as the ultimate, that guru as the ultimate guiding light, and move forward with in our spiritual pursuit. We should stick to that path. We need to have conviction. We need to have dedication in that path. Each guru, like each deity, each guru would have his or her own different way of conveying the same truth. Why? Again, for the same reason, all of us have different mental composure, all of us have different background that we come from. So the guru advises us in a particular way. Certain gurus have a particular things associated with them. Another guru has a particular path associated with them. Some will focus just on, jnana yoga. Someone will focus on bhakti yoga. Someone else will focus on selfless action. Some may do a particular, they may have certain mannerisms. Some other guru may have certain other mannerisms. They are to cater to the kind of followers that they have. That's all. So going on guru shopping, being in one ashram and then thinking, oh, the other ashram seems nice, and then go to that ashram, it's natural that some other ashram may seem nice. There is this phrase in Malayalam, says, ikkarekya akkara pacha. Ikkara, you're on one side, one bank, one side of the river. Akkara will always seem much greener. And once you go to the other side of the river, this side seems much greener. That's very natural. It's natural human mentality. So to go guru shopping, again, is the same problem. So recognize a true guru. Once you have recognized the true guru, because the guru's very duty or responsibility is to work with your ego, sometimes we may get hurt and we may feel the other side of the bank or other bank of the river seems better. So we need to have conviction. That's why we say, oh, this guru is the best. This guru is the guiding light for us. When we go guru shopping, it's like looking for water under the surface of earth. We try to dig a bore well. Say we can dig about 20 feet every day. So one day we come dig 20 feet. The next day we go to another place and dig 20 feet. The third day we go to another place, dig 20 feet. We are never going to reach water. Rather, keep digging 20 feet each day in the same place. Eventually, we'll definitely reach water. So sticking to one guru is again the same, the same idea. So that's why it is said, "Aur devata chittana dharai, Hanumat sei sarva sukha karai." You needn't focus on any other form. Just focus on Hanuman alone and move forward in your pursuit of happiness, in your spiritual pursuit. In no way putting down other forms, but when we are dedicated to Lord Hanuman, focus on that form as the ultimate form. So that was the gist of the 35th verse. The 36th verse says, Sankat kate mite sab pira, jo sumire Hanumat balbira. So it's highlighting the attitude of dedication, the attitude of devotion one needs to have towards Lord Hanuman. Once you do that, all the problems disappear, all forms of sufferings also are annihilated. Let's again look into another folklore story of Lord Hanuman, inspiring story. So this story is about a person called Gaja Shakti. Gaja, elephant, Shakti, strength, a person who had the strength of an elephant, very strong, a wrestler. So it seems Lord Hanuman once comes across a funeral rite that is going on. A family is performing the last rite of their beloved one. But when he closely looks at it, there is no dead body there. Rather, there is just a wooden, a wood carved in form of a body, and they are performing last rites to the wooden body. So Lord Hanuman is intrigued, and he goes and asks them, what happened? Why are you performing last rites to this wooden body? And the family members explain, telling, this is my son or this is my father, and he was taken by the king, the cruel king called Baladhari. Baladhari basically means one who tries to hold to strength. So Baladhari abducted him. And it's typical that any time someone is taken by the king, they never come back. So we are very sure my father is no more or my son is no more. So we are performing his last rites with just a form that just represents him. Hanuman feels very bad. He asks them about who is this king. And they say he's very ruthless. He just abducts all these wrestlers. He just takes them, and then there is no know-how about them. No one knows what happens to them. So Lord Hanuman now goes to Baladhari's kingdom, his palace. And as he goes there, he sees there are so many weaklings, people who are completely sapped out of their energy, walking around, very frail, famished. And he asks them what happened. And they all say, we were all wrestlers, very strong. And Baladhari, he would invite us for a duel, to have a wrestling fight. And in that pretext, he brings us, and he has some special means by which he just sucks out all our strength. And he always wants to be very strong and the strongest person in the world. So he just sucks our energy out of us. And all of us are rendered helpless here. We can't even escape this, this captivity that we are in. So Hanuman feels very bad about it. He says, let me go and meet this Baladhari, the king. And he goes up to the king. And the king doesn't recognize this is Hanuman. He just thinks there is yet another person who seems strong, who is here in form of a monkey. And as usual, he asks him, do you want to have a duel with me? Have a wrestling fight with me and defeat me? And Hanuman says yes. He is very well aware of the trap that he is going to try to sap his energy out. And the king does the same. He starts sapping Hanuman's energy out. But he doesn't realize this is Hanuman. Like Amma says, people ask Amma, how are you able to give darshan for so long? Don't you get tired? Amma says Amma doesn't have an independent battery in her. She's connected directly to the power line. And she has unlimited power. When there is love, when there is dedication, you can do it. So Lord Hanuman is like that. He is a store of unlimited amount of energy and power. And the king now, he starts sapping energy more and more and more and more. Now the king starts getting saturated. The king is now overwhelmed with the amount of energy that comes, and still looks like Hanuman has so much more energy. The king finally collapses, unable to take the amount of force or energy from Hanuman. And finally, he collapses down, helpless, and dies. So then Hanuman helps all the wrestlers get their energy back, and they're all restored back to their original form, and they all go back home, including Gajashakti. He goes back to his family. As Hanuman had promised to his family, he brought him back to the family. And it seems that's why you have these akhadas. Akhadas are typically, India, we have this game of kushti or gusti. The wrestling, even Olympics has wrestling ring. It'll be round in shape, and then two people, they get into this wrestling fight, and you have to push the other person out of that, the round border that is drawn. So every time you have an akhada, the wrestling ring, they have a red Hanuman idol in every akhada. It's called akhada in India, in North India. So every akhada has Hanuman, a red form of Hanuman. It's a dedication to Hanuman for rescuing all the wrestlers from this cruel king called Baladhari. And it seems it is also believed that Tulsidas Goswami, he is the one who suggested that the akhadas have a form of Hanuman, and Hanuman be worshipped by wrestlers. And that tradition goes on even today. And when we look at it from the spiritual perspective, as always, when you say dedicate yourself to Hanuman, dedicating oneself to Hanuman or dedicating ourselves to Amma and just talking Amma's glory, Amma is great, Amma is great, Amma doesn't want that. Hanuman doesn't want that. They are least interested in getting praised. They are happy and content even otherwise. When you try to praise someone, it's for us as spiritual aspirants to focus on the qualities that they represent. It's to reflect on those qualities. That is exactly what praising is. When you say, Amma is so loving, Amma is so compassionate, Amma is so patient, Amma is so accepting. It's not to glorify Amma, rather it is to reflect on love, compassion, patience and acceptance and try to imbibe that in our life. So when you say be dedicated to Amma, when we say be dedicated to Hanuman, we are talking about being dedicated to devotion, dedication, humility, selflessness, egolessness. That's what makes Hanuman great, and that's what will make us great too. So once we develop these qualities, it's just common sense. Where will be there room for problems? If we are humble, if we are dedicated, if we have no ego, then there is going to be no problem in our life. It's just common sense. We will be just problem free. I'm not trivializing problems. We do have problems that are much beyond our control, yes. But 90% of the problems that we have in our life is because of our rigid mindset. It is because of our self-centric way of thinking, self-centric attitude, because of our likes and dislikes. If we let go of that, 90% of our problems are gone. Simple examples. Say we are going on tour, or we are going on a satsang trip. Say we are going to Amritapuri, and sometimes we have to share a room with someone. So it's a big problem for many of us. But if we develop these qualities, it's no more a problem. And we see that here. It's no more a problem for so many people who share a communal living style in the ashram. Or I didn't get a chance to sing in the satsang. It is just a trivial problem if we develop these attitudes. Someone is gossiping about me. I don't care. When we don't develop this quality, when we are self-centric, that's when we care about it so much. So that is where the state that we need to get to. Think of Amma. The amount of ridicule, the amount of problems that Amma faces, we are nowhere near that. But Amma keeps going with the conviction of serving the world. So that is the state we need to get to. That's why when you say dedicate yourself to Hanuman, be devoted to Hanuman, we are basically thinking of, or what we need to take as a spiritual message there is to reflect on the qualities that Lord Hanuman represents and imbibe that in ourselves. So that's the 36th verse. And the 37th verse says, Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai. Victory, victory, victory to Lord Hanuman. Does Lord Hanuman need us to call out, hey, be victorious, be victorious, be victorious? What exactly is victory? What exactly is to say someone is victorious? The Mundakopanishad talks about, it's a very small phrase which is again very popular, and it happens to be the phrase of the Indian emblem, India as a country, the Indian Republic's emblem. It says Satyameva Jayate, which is taken from the Mundakopanishad. Satyameva Jayate Nanritam. Satyam eva Jayate. Satyam, the truth. Eva, verily, Jayate, triumphs. Na anritam, not untruthness or falsehood. So what is victorious is truth. So when you say Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai, We are actually referring to the supreme truth, reflecting on the supreme truth, reflecting on the ultimate state that we need to focus on as spiritual aspirants. As we have discussed in all the various scriptural texts that we have looked into in the past, and even in Hanuman Chalisa, truth is that ultimate state of oneness, wherein there is no duality. There is no room. When there is no duality, there is no room for untruthness. There is no me and you. When it is me, it is true. When it is you, it is untrue. Basically, that's what happens in dual state. But then there is singular state, there is only oneness, there is only truth. There is no me and otherwise. So there is only truth in that state. So it refers to that ultimate state. So Guru, God, deities, Amma, Hanuman, they have already reached that state. So they don't need to be victorious anymore. They are already victorious. So when we say, I sing your victory, we are basically reflecting on the state that they are in. And again, we need to take it forward and see how we can imbibe that in our life. How can we get to that state? So victory is in the battle of, it's the conflict we have or the fight we have against our own ego, our likes and dislikes, our self-centric attitude. It is that struggle, is that war that we are in, so that we elevate ourselves above our ego. So it's a war cry. Jai, 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 when you say, it is a war cry reminding ourselves, fight against your ego. And Amma often mentions this, right? When Amma says, when you say Mata Rani ki Jai, when Amma says Mata Rani ki, we all say Jai. Amma says two things. One, visualize white flowers of peace showering and bringing peace everywhere. And second thing to think about when we do Jai is in that intensity of Jai, the negativities in us is trumped by the positive qualities in us. The positivity in us or the divineness in us wins over the demon in us. The positive in us wins over the negative in us. So that's what Amma says too. The Jai is that victory over our ego. So next time when you say Mata Rani ki Jai, or when we say Jai, 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 Hanuman Gosai, we need to remind ourselves, this is a war cry reminding us that fight against your ego, fight against your negativities. And then, Jai, 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 Hanuman Gosai, Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki nai. It's a point that we always discuss. And literally every text that we have discussed stresses on this. How much ever we try to grow spiritually, whatever form that we focus on, finally, what we need to grow spiritually is Guru's grace. That's why it says, Kripa Karahu Gurudev ki nai. We need Kripa, we need the grace of the Guru, this spiritual preceptor who will hold our hand and guide us through the path until the ultimate state, to help us grow spiritually. Even the last week, we were discussing the 33rd and 34th is what we discussed, right? The 33rd verse is about all bhajan. What is the 33rd verse? It is Tumhare bhajan Ram ko pavai, janam janam ke dukh bisravai. Your bhajan will help us get Lord Rama, right? Again, stressing on the same thing. When we get praises, always remember there's a force acting behind us. And the best way to embody that is looking at the form of the Guru. So ever have that attitude of humility, and having a Guru will easily help us do that. Otherwise, we may get complacent easily. We may get egoistic easily. But when there is Guru, there is always a form to which we express our humility. That way, we remind ourselves that I can be humble. So we do need Guru's grace. I'm not elaborating too much on it because we discussed last week anyway about being humble towards the spiritual master. So that should be our attitude. Just remember that every time, every endeavor, spiritual endeavor that we venture into, Guru's grace is like the icing on the cake. It is an indispensable part of our spiritual journey. Guru is the biggest trump card that we have to deal with our ego. If at all we need to overcome win in the fight against our ego, the best person to have on our side is our Guru. The Guru will put us through situations, will advise us verbally, advise us with examples to overcome ego. So, Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai, victory, victory, victory over ego. And for that, we need Kripa Karahu Gurudev Ki Nai. We need Guru's grace. Definitely remember that. So, these are the points I thought we'll discuss today. Just to summarize, let's look into the table, the 35th, 36th, and 37th verses. To summarize the spiritual impart that we have from these verses, the 35th verse, we discussed that we need to develop devotion, to dedicate ourselves to the form or the deity that we have chosen as an object of our spiritual practice. And once we have chosen that form, dedicate ourselves to that form. But when we dedicate to one form, always remind ourselves that other forms are no way inferior. We should never get into that vicious cycle or loop telling my deity alone is great, every other deity is useless. Never get into that trap. Definitely my deity is great, every other deity is great, but my focus is on my deity. So that's what the 35th verse talks about. The 36th verse, the spiritual impart is what? The devotion and dedication that we invest on the deity or the Guru will definitely fetch us happiness. It will help us overcome our sufferings and problems. Sufferings just don't have place to be when we develop true devotion. So that is 36th verse. 37th verse, it talks about victory. And what is true victory? True victory is to overcome our ego and reach the state of ultimate truth. That is true victory. And in that state, there is only oneness with divine. We lose identity with our ego and we overcome ego. That is true victory. Every other form of victory is just ephemeral in nature. It will come and it will go. So these are the three verses we discussed today, and these are the gist of what we discussed today in each of the three verses. So with that, we will conclude the discussion part, and we'll now chant or sing the Hanuman Chalisa. Om Amriteshwarye Namah. Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raj Nij Man Mukuru Sudhari Bharna Raghubar Bimal Jasu Jodayak Phal Chari बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरा पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेस विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर, जय कपीस तिहुँ लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा, अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी, कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा, कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा बिराजे, कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन, तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाय संजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावै, हस कहीं श्रीपति कंठ लगावै। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद सारद सहित अहिंसा। जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाँ ते, कवि कोविद कहि सकै कहाँ ते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। युग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु, लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेली मुख माही, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपै, तीनों लोक हाँकते कापै। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावै, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावै। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावै, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावै। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है परिसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे, अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता, राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। हरे भजन राम को पावै, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावै। अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटै मिटै सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बल बीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। कीजय नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। ओ माता सीता की जय, ओ माता सीता की जय। ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय, ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय। भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय, भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। ओम असतो मा सत्कमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय। मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ओम Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah. Harihi Om.